Afternoon. This video documentation in regards to the E30 chassis headlights, in regards to mainly just the low beam wiring and how the HIDs are connected, or maybe some troubleshoot tips in regards to certain connections that you want to check for if the low beam's not working. Actually, after reviewing the photos that you forwarded to me, it seems that how you wired the 9006 connector, which I've seen actually you unsheathed the cap and pretty much tap a spade connectors to them. You did a pretty good job. It looks pretty clean. How you inserted the spade connectors to your H4 seal beam connector seems correct to me how I'm reviewing. So I'm just going to actually further look into, there are kind of couple possibilities of where you want to check for connections or even polarity concerns. First things first, I just want to make sure the fact that once you receive your HID component ballast, pretty much the ballast should be already connected with the 9006 connector inserted already. This is what we refer as a 9006 connector for the ballast mount. In the case that everything was plugged in, I just want to make sure that the positive wire, which should be the red wire, is on the inner side, which is the wired side, and then the black wire, is the negative, is on the outer side. Again, these components are polarity sensitive, and then the 9006 connector, which can be connected either way, if it's connected the opposite way, the ballast, the power that going to the ballast will never ignite the bulb. So that's the first thing I like to ask for you to double check to make sure that the positive wire is facing on the inner side and the negative is on the outer side. Alright, so I'm going to run down the overall wiring setup for the headlights and how I seen you connected yours. So starting off with the low beam connector, which is indicative of the yellow wire. We've already pre-wired it. It should have been plugged in from the beginning. I see that you pretty much cut this off and inserted the spade connector to your factory H4 connector. So far, that no problem at what I'm reviewing right now, but being the case you're reporting that the low beam is not working or it never worked in the first place, I'm wondering if you can unplug your H4 connector, the ones that you inserted the spade connectors with, to see if you can help me run, a bench test if you have a 12-volt power supply unit on hand. The bench testing process, mainly what we're asking for is to see if you can supply a 12-volt power supply to the low beam connector to see if internally find out where the power or the connection stops. So if you can kind of bear with me, being the case I don't have the proper pliers or tool right now to plug these in. I have everything set up right now exactly reflecting to your case, but I'm just going to do my best to explain in regards to the concept that I'm trying to relate to you. So bear with me. Again, you cut yours off and you have a spade connectors on hand, yellow and black wire. So if you can keep yellow as positive and black as negative on your end with the spade connectors, simply, if you do have a 12-volt power supply on hand, which we have one on the desk, you have smaller alligator clamps, or you can use testing leads to pretty much make contact on those spade connectors. But mainly what I'm asking you to do is get the positive lead, pretty much plug it against the positive spade connectors that you made, and also a negative lead, pretty much connect them or have them contact with your negative spade connector that you made. So in a sense, you're pretty much clamping down on those two spade connectors, and then you're going to go ahead and power up, boot up, just to see what you get. I'm wondering if you can, the wires can be directly bench tested from there. So once the power runs through the spade connectors, it'll run internally to the headlights, which the headlight has a grounding H1 connector, and then already the positive lead to the H1 bulb itself. So everything will be actually internal. So you don't have to mess anything internal wise, because they've been QC'd. However, you can bear with me. The two spade connector internal that connects to the H1 internal connector will be already connected inside, and the bulb will be sitting inside the projector. So you don't have to remove the cap to touch anything right now for the time being. So bear with me. You'll see a rubber grommet on probably the rear housing, and all of this will be internal. So what you're going to be left with will be these connectors, which again, these are the HID ballast male and female connectors. You can't get them wrong. They can only connect one way. However, the other wire would lead to a 9006 connector to the ballast. This is the one I'm mentioning about the polarity check in the beginning, but after that's been checked, if you're able to directly bench test your spade connectors, which would be already connected like that, so positive wire, negative negative, directly bench test it to see, meaning that don't have anything to do with your factory connector H4, just bench test it to see if you're able to light up the HID bulb. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate to you the bench testing process, with the exception of the light bulb being outside of the outer housing. So bear with me. If you can check out the wiring, you can see that this is like a more of a closed circuit system. So the only lead that's available will be these two spade connectors, which are already connected internally to the headlights. So I'm going to be bench testing from here to power the HID bulb. And make sure that the power supply is already plugged in. So 1 second. So I got the leads connected to the internal spade connector, which try to imagine that this is your spade connector on the outer side, because you're not messing with anything internal of these headlights. So if you bear with me, this is essentially what you're looking at with yours, what you've done, tapped your spade connectors. So imagine that this wire is actually this wire that you modified to have spade connectors looking like this. This is pretty much the concept I'm asking you to directly bench test it to see if you can get the ballast working with no issues. Again, this is one of our QC processes before packing and shipping the headlights out. So I'm going to go ahead and boot it up. You can already see the HID bulbs working. So positive and negative is being fed into the ballast igniting the bulb ultimately. So turning out the power supply unit. Again, mainly I'm just wondering if, off from your factory connector, I understand you have power supplying through there, but I'm wondering if more so if you can directly bench test the spade connector to see what you're getting. If you directly bench test the spade connectors, not involving your factory H4 connector, and it's still not receiving power, the next instance I would check would be pretty much the polarity. If the polarity is not the case, being the case that the lights are QC'd before shipping, I don't think that there are going to be any concerns with the inner housing wiring. So what I kindly ask for you to do, again, treat this as the wire is already, the grommets in place, and all you have is just the HID ballast hanging out like this. So the next instance I'm going to ask for your assistance is to cross-reference the HID ballast to make sure that the HID ballast is not in question, meaning that if it's a faulty ballast, we can understand that by cross-referencing, if the concern follows the ballast, then it'll be the ballast that's not working, which we can always file the warranty for to assist you with. So if in the case you're not familiar with how to disconnect HID components, just disconnect the male and female, just like that. There's actually clips on each side, so you can just unplug, pull back to unplug, and you got your 9006 connector, which you got probably pull the tabs off and unplug. Make sure when you're pretty much transferring the ballast to the opposite side, to ensure when you're connecting the 9006 connector again, the polarity is correct. This will be incorrect. The outer wire, red wire on the outer side, is incorrect. So you want to have it on the inner side and black wire on the outer side. So there are a couple things that I wanted to ask to see if you can help me with, which is pretty much checking the polarity, testing from the main spade connectors, lastly cross-referencing the HID ballast if both troubleshoots are not conclusive. Pretty much this concludes the video. Thank you so much for your time.